3 spine-chilling true stories of sinister neighbors, secrets revealed that will haunt you forever. In Millfield, a quaint little suburb, a fresh arrival stirred unease among its unsuspecting residents. Sarah, a single mother with 2 young children, moved into what seemed like a welcoming home on Maple Street. Her dreams of a nurturing community blossomed under the warm smiles of her neighbors. But as twilight painted the sky, shadows lengthened in that seemingly perfect neighborhood, whispering secrets that would make the hair on her arms stand at attention. The first night, Sarah lay in bed listening to her children's gentle snores, until a low murmur tickled her ears, a soft, ghostly sound like lost voices chattering just beyond her window. Curiosity tugged at her, but fear quickly wrapped around her heart, squeezing tighter as each minute dragged. Surely, she thought, it's just the wind. Soon, talk of missing pets began to circulate among the neighbors. One morning, a cheerful little dog was gone, leaving its owners distraught and crying. Shortly after, the fluffy cat that always lounged on the Johnsons' porch vanished. Sarah noticed how the frantic whispers grew heavier under the cloak of night, sinking into her bones. Her children, meanwhile, delighted in new friendships forged in laughter, their innocence cutting through the unsettling tension, blissfully unaware of the darkness that lurked just a heartbeat away. As exhaustion from her late-night job settled in, Sarah found herself relying on the help of her oddball neighbors, Mrs. Wilkins, the sweet old lady bearing cookies rather than warnings, and Mr. Thompson, the father with an unmatched intensity in his eyes as he watched her kids play. His gaze made her skin crawl, but she dismissed it. Who could suspect such warmth hiding sinister truths? Then, a local boy went missing, disappeared without a trace, swallowed by the shadows of Millfield. It was as if the neighborhood was playing along in a game written long ago, and she was the unknowing player. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Driven by fear, Sarah decided to dig into her neighbors' pasts, unearthing stories about the peddler's curse, a chilling local legend that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to question its dark undertones. The more she learned, the more anxiety invaded her sense of safety. Her house felt like a trap, a place where the weight of her children's laughter clashed violently against the belly of terror brewing around them. Sleepless nights blurred into her waking moments, shadows creeping into the corners of her vision. Each missing pet poster pasted on lampposts felt like a warning sign, each day's sunset casting darker shapes across her yard. When she thought she could finally relax, dread enveloped her mind again. As the clock struck midnight, a sinister noise echoed through the silence of her home, her child's giggle, creeping closer but not from her bedroom where they should be. Heart racing, Sarah felt the thrilling despair of the chase, realizing she had to find them before they vanished too, lured by the very community she'd so desperately wished to be a part of. Would she be able to save them before it was too late? The darkness wrapped around Sarah like a suffocating cloak, every heartbeat echoing in the silence of her home. The giggle again, light and airy, like a butterfly dancing on the wind, yet tinged with something ominous that made her pulse quicken. It was closer now. Panic clawed at her throat as she stumbled out of bed and into the dark hallway. "Ella? Ben?" she called, her voice trembling. The shadows whispered back, a chilling mimicry of laughter that made her blood run cold. With trembling hands, she grazed the walls, feeling every crack, every flaw, as she crept toward the source of the sound. The air grew heavy, suffocating her chest, making it hard to breathe. She pulled open the door to her children's room, and dread gripped her like a vice when she saw it empty, the beds perfectly made, the moonlight casting sharp shadows on the unoccupied sheets. No. Her mind raced, the terrifying possibility surfacing. What if they had already been taken? As she turned, her heart sank. The giggles shifted again, now outside. She rushed to the window, her breath hitching as she peered into the night. The lawn was still, bats traced arcs in the moonlight, and the trees swayed as if alive, each rustle a whispered secret. But there, just beyond the trees at the edge of the yard, she saw them, two shadowy figures, small and indistinct, playing in the dim glow of the streetlight. "Ella! Ben!" She screamed, desperation clawing at her throat. But the shadows, her children, didn't turn. They spun and twirled as if caught in an enchanting dance, illuminated just enough for her heart to shatter. Suddenly, the figures stopped. Their heads turned slowly, an unsettling stillness that made her skin crawl. Their eyes, wide and sparkling, glinted in the light, a glimmer so eerily unnatural that she felt something slick with dread coat her skin. It was wrong. Something was very wrong. "Mommy!" They finally called out, but the voices were layered with something strange, something that made the back of her neck prickle. This wasn't her children. This was a trap. Sarah bolted down the stairs, her feet pounding against the wooden floor, her lungs burning as she stumbled into the living room. She raced for the front door, but her hand froze on the knob. What if someone was waiting outside? "Don't open it." A whisper slithered from the shadows of the corner. Mrs. Wilkins stood there, eyes wide with something Sarah had never seen before. Fear hung in the air between them, thick and palpable. "Get inside," she urged, pulling Sarah back with a strength that didn't match her frail form. "You don't understand. They're not your children anymore. The peddler has taken them." But just as Sarah opened her mouth to protest, her children's laughter bubbled from outside again. This time, it was darker, more twisted, a taunt woven into the breeze that sent her heart racing. The sweet innocence that once wrapped around her children had twisted into something monstrous. "Stay inside," Mrs. Wilkins hissed again, but Sarah could only think of her kids out there. If they truly were taken, what would she have to do? The clock on the wall ticked louder, a deafening reminder of time slipping away. Every second counted now, and anxiety clawed at her. She felt trapped in a nightmare of her own making. With a sudden resolve, Sarah turned to Mrs. Wilkins, her heart pounding in her chest. "What do I do?" she demanded, her voice cracking under the strain. But Mrs. Wilkins' face twisted, and the shadow shifted behind her, revealing a figure lurking in the gloom. "Only the brave can face the peddler," she murmured, and as she did, the darkness seemed to swallow her intent whole. The door rattled violently, and Sarah knew she had only moments to decide. Would she dare open it, risking everything for a chance to save her children? Her heart raced. The choice echoed in her mind: open the door and confront the nightmare, or stay hidden and pray it wouldn't come for her next. In that moment, the shadows moved, whispering her name, and Sarah knew the real terror was just beginning. What her choice would unleash was still unknown, and it would change everything. The door shuddered again, its wooden frame quaking as if alive. Sarah's breath quickened, each pulse thrumming in her ears like a war drum. The laughter outside morphed into sharp cackles, echoing through the void, clashing against her senses. They sounded like her children, yet it felt nothing like them. "Let them go," she shouted, voice low and trembling, as tears blurred her vision. The shadows flickered, then merged into one dark mass, a figure pressing against the glass. A face contorted, an empty grin stretching unnaturally wide. "Mommy, come play," the voice called, sweet yet laced with venom. "Stay away." The scream tore from her throat, ripping through the silence, rebelling against the choking fear. Only the brave Mrs. Wilkins' words echoed in her mind. The old woman vanished into the dark like a bad dream, but her warning lingered, sharp and haunting. What awaited beyond the door? The peddler? Should she face this nightmare head-on or hide from a terrifying truth? Sarah's hands shook as she clenched the doorknob. The chilling laughter transformed into a cacophony, climbing and spiraling, until it felt like a living thing crashing against her resolve. She had to act. Stay away from my children!" she cried, lungs burning, as she yanked the door open. The night exploded into chaos around her. The figures darted like wild animals in the darkness, twisted shapes flitting like shadows caught in a furious storm. "Mommy!" Ella's voice rang out again, piercing through the malevolence. Sarah squinted into the gloom, desperation flooding through her like ice water. The familiar outline of her child stood just a few feet away, face lit by the streetlight. But Ben? Where was he? "Ella! Come here!" she pleaded, arms reaching out. Yet instead of rushing into her embrace, Ella giggled and twirled, spinning in sudden exhilaration. The laughter seeped into the very air around them, wrapping tighter around Sarah like a noose. A whimper escaped her. "Ella, please," and that S when Sarah saw it, a shadow hovering just behind her daughter. It stretched, warping into something grotesque, a reflection of innocence twisted into malice. "Play with us, Mommy." The shadow wobbled, morphing into both children, yet their faces were wrong. Features twisted, eyes black as night, smiles too wide. "Run!" Mrs. Wilkins' voice caught in the wind, drenching Sarah in dread. She stumbled back, the door creaking toward closure, but the dark figures writhed at the threshold, holding the doorway like a gateway to hell. They whispered sweet, sickly phrases that clawed at her heart. "Join us," Sarah gasped, every instinct screaming to flee, her skin crawling as the grip of shadows tightened around her ankles. "No!" She fought against the darkness, shoving herself back against the threshold. But every word they spoke was a song, snaring her thoughts, dragging her deeper into oblivion. "Mommy!" Ella cried again, stark terror in her voice, pulling Sarah's heart in conflicting directions. "What do you want?" Sarah screamed into the night. The shadow-hued figures paused, their mirth fading. Only what you've lost, a revelation crashed into her. The peddler wasn't taking children. He was offering them a choice, a way to have them back. But at what cost? As that thought shattered her resolve, the figures lunged forward, drowning her world in darkness. Sarah stumbled, heart racing faster than thought, the weight of their hunger crashing over her like a tidal wave. The last thing she saw was the moonlight dimming as whispers filled her ears. Now, she faced a choice she couldn't comprehend. Could she truly confront the monster in the night and save her children from a fate worse than death? The shadows loomed closer, and Sarah found herself teetering on the edge of a dread she never knew existed. The darkness pulsed around her, a living thing, hungry and relentless. Sarah stumbled backward, trying to regain her footing. Ella's silhouette twisted in the haze, her innocent laugh tainted by the shadows. "Ella, come here. Please." Sarah begged, voice cracking. She felt the chill of despair creep up her spine, but she couldn't afford to falter. Panic surged through her, a desperate need to protect her child. The figures shifted, their shadows elongating, swirling like smoke caught in an unseen wind. "Mommy, join us," they cooed, voices a haunting echo of her children. Each syllable dripped with sickly sweetness. "No. You're not my kids." She tossed the words like stones, desperate to break the spell they wove around her heart. The darkness shrieked, a cacophony of childlike cries blending into one grotesque choir. "You'll never see them again. We'll make them happy." The thought of losing them was a knife twisting in her gut. Sarah grappled with dread, remembering the warmth of their hugs, the taste of bedtime stories, the innocent laughter of playground moments. What had she done to be trapped in this nightmare? Why had she opened the door? "Ella." She strained to see through the blackness, every breath a cry for her daughter. The shadows darted around her, threatening to pull her into their void. "You don't have to listen to them. You're stronger than this." The twisted form stilled, momentarily confused. She could see Ella still dancing, spinning, trapped in twisted joy. "Come back. We'll leave together." But with each frantic word, the shadows tightened around Sarah, their icy tendrils spiraling up her legs, constricting tighter. They hissed, "You want them back? You can have them." A figure stepped forward, taller than the rest, its grin stretching impossibly wide. "But they will never be the same." Sarah's heart thundered. How? What did it mean? A part of her wanted to scream, to run inside and slam the door shut, sealing herself from this nightmare. But another part, the part that had seen the devastation of loss, hungered for the answer. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, despair coursing like poison. "Your will. Your sacrifice," the looming figure spat, each word sharp and bitter, cutting through her resolve. "You can be with them, if you offer yourself." A wave of revulsion surged through her. How could she trust them? Shadows never told the truth. Yet, the shadowy semblance of her children giggled softly, their voices pulling at her heart. "Mommy, we want to play forever." The wind swirled around her, whipping her hair against her face. Darkness swelled like a crashing tide. "No!" Sarah screamed, pushing back against the terror. But the shadows surged forward, an unstoppable tide of anguish and greed, reaching for her soul. She knew the choice was hers. Face this evil and risk it all, or kneel to the whispers and lose herself forever. Sarah's breath quickened, blurring the edges of reality. She felt herself slipping, teetering on the brink. Would you sacrifice everything, even your humanity, to save them? The cackling echoed, mingling with the cries of her children. Then it happened. Time stretched and twisted. A new voice, older, wiser, pushed through the chaos. A memory. Sometimes the bravest thing is knowing when to fight. Suddenly, clarity sparked within the tumult. She straightened, summoning all the courage of a mother's love. "No! I want tea!" She roared into the void, echoing her defiance against the darkness. Light shimmered at the edges of her vision. Not the warm glow of the streetlight, but a fierce, unyielding brightness. The shadows flinched as if in pain. "Enough! You'll not have my children." Her feet rooted to reality, Sarah lunged toward the shadows, summoning every ounce of strength. She grasped at the light, threading hope through the terror. As the shadows recoiled, she felt a flicker of warmth radiate from within her, the love she held for her children, pure and unyielding. "Come on! Fight it!" she shouted, urging Ella and Ben to break free from their nightmare. With a surge of determination, Sarah reached toward her children, the distance narrowing rapidly. The shadows shrieked, shriveling before her like mist under the sun. But would it be enough? Was she truly strong enough to shatter the dark promise of shadows and reclaim her family? As the shadows cracked and fissured, a question hung in the air: could love truly conquer the darkness, or would their sacrifice become her chains? The world collapsed around Sarah, a symphony of screams and laughter intermingling in the darkness that pushed against her from all sides. She pressed her palms to her ears, desperate to silence the twisted echoes of her children. But the more she fought, the louder they became. In a bold attempt, Sarah lunged forward one last time. "Ella! Ben!" she cried, summoning all her strength, willing the warmth of her love to burst through the suffocating shadows. The light surged on the periphery, a beacon that sliced through the fog. With each step, the darkness writhed and hissed, coiling back as if it harbored a deep-seated fear of her resolve. It was working. She could feel it. But the malevolent figures, flickering like candles in a draught, regained their shape and focus. They whispered her name, a sickly sweet lure. "Join us, you need us no." Sarah screamed, the word ripping from her throat. "You're not my children." The figures froze, taken aback. The shadows lunged forward, but she held her ground, an anchor amidst the storm. In that moment, vivid flashes of Ella's laughter and Ben's smile erupted in her mind, warping into grotesque versions that mocked her. "You won, T win. They're ours." Just as the cold void seemed ready to swallow her whole, she felt a tug at her heart. A deeper memory surfaced, a bedtime routine, a touch of soft skin, the simple whisper of "I love you, Mommy." "Fight!" she urged, focusing on her children, willing their strength into her arms. "You can break free. I believe in you." But as the shadows closed in, terror twisted her insides. What if her children were irrevocably lost? What if the love she felt was not enough? "Sacrifice will free you," the tallest figure hissed, a glint of hope veiled by malice in its soulless eyes. Its voice twisted like a thorn, digging deeper into her fears. "You could be with them forever. Just hand over your heart, get away." She screamed, instinctively raising her arms, willing the light to expand outward like the burst of a star. It roared to life, illuminating the darkness, revealing the tortured faces of her children caught in the clutches of shadows. They seemed to shudder in recognition, a glimmer of hope flickering in their eyes. But the shadows would not yield. They lunged toward her again, a creeping, whispering wave of cold despair that threatened to steal away not just her children, but her very essence. "Mommy! Help us!" Ella cried, the ghost of her voice piercing through the haze, but it wasn't Ella. It was a mocking mimicry, a sinister tone that sent chills racing down Sarah's spine. "No!" she growled through gritted teeth, summoning every ounce of a mother's fury. She surged forward, each pulse of her heart igniting the darkness briefly, illuminating fractured faces and twisted forms. "I won't abandon you." The figures swarmed, intent on engulfing her whole, but with trembling resolve, she stepped back into the rising light. "Together!" she shouted, a command wrapped in love and desperation. But then, something unexpected happened. The shadows recoiled in agony, their forms distorting and cracking. A scream joined the cacophony, a guttural, wretched sound from nowhere and everywhere. In their fear, they shrunk away, leaving a path toward the fading forms of Ella and Ben. "Mommy!" they cried once more, stretching their arms toward her like lifelines. Yet just as hope ignited her spirit, the floor beneath her trembled. The once firm ground quaked violently, fissures splitting apart, as if reality itself was breaking. In that moment, Sarah realized, the choice was not yet made. She held her breath, feeling the air pull away from her lungs. "What will it cost?" she gasped, knowing that all choices come with a price. The shadows paused, their twisted smiles fading, leaving behind an eerie silence. "Everything or nothing," they whispered, their voices a chilling murmur that echoed in the hollow. Sarah's pulse raced, the weight of decision pressing down on her. What does that mean? But the shadows were already retreating, their figures dissipating like mist under sunlight, leaving behind the incandescent glow of her children's faces. As she reached for them, doubt clenched at her heart. Could she truly reclaim her family from this hellish void? The ground shifted again, the darkness lapping hungrily at her feet. And in that fleeting silence, one terrible thought emerged: no matter what happened next, this was only the beginning. The moment hung suspended in an agonizing hush, as though the world itself had stopped to await her answer. Sarah's heart drummed dangerously in her chest, a pounding metronome marking every fleeting thought of terror. What did everything really mean? Her mind raced with desperate imaginings. Would it mean losing her children to this darkness? Or losing her very self? Footsteps echoed, heavy and relentless, beneath that shuddering soil. As the fissures splintered her escape route, she blinked back tears and cast one last desperate glance at Ella and Ben. They were fading, the light drawing them back behind that foreboding shadow, their pleas plunging her deeper into the abyss. "Mommy! Please! Stay with me!" Sarah shouted, her voice cracking. The shadows tightened around her, coiling like serpents hungry for a feast. "Please, I need you!" Suddenly, the ground trembled violently, sending shockwaves through her bones. The darkness swirled, reacting to her cries as if her despair fueled its fury. The air turned thick, heavy with suffocating silence. Her skin prickled, and she could feel something watching her, waiting for her to make her move. Choose. The shadows hissed, their collective breath a cold wind brushing against her face. Tendrils of darkness wrapped tighter, threatening to constrict her thoughts, her will. Just as she felt the pull of hopelessness consume her, a small flicker of realization pierced the blanket of despair. Love, the purest form of strength, was a weapon or perhaps the very key to the prison that held her children. Ben. Ella. She cried, the names cascading from her lips like a prayer. We're stronger together. Remember the stories? Remember our adventures? She saw them twitch at the mention of their shared memories. The darkness rippled uneasily, as if the very essence of her love for her children posed a challenge it hadn't anticipated. Let their memories guide you, their laughter light your way. She urged. You are not just shadows. You are part of me. Hope flickered in their eyes, briefly illuminating the murky mass around them. But doubt clawed at her heart. What if her memories were too weak against the shadows? What if they failed her right when she needed them most? In that moment, the ground beneath her cracked wider, sending her tumbling, spiraling down into a swirling chaos of screams and shadows. She gasped as fragments of her life splintered before her. Moments she wished to cling to shattered like glass. When she hit the ground, the world darkened anew. The figures danced on the edge of her vision, gloating, taunting her with the very images of her children she cherished. Every fragment of light dimmed further into a suffocating void. And then came the whispers, close and sinister, curling around her. You thought love could save you? You thought you could escape? They jeered, these twisted reflections of her children's innocence. Stop! She screamed, the desperation palpable in her voice. This isn't love. It's a lie. But they only laughed, the sound echoing through her mind like a clanging bell, taunting her with failures. The darkness surged, hungry for her despair, knowing she teetered on the edge of giving in, bearing the weight of her choices ripe to be devoured. As her resolve faltered, a sudden burst of clarity crashed over her. It clawed at the shadowy edges of her sanity. No! I won't surrender. She roared with newfound strength, pushing the memories of laughter, of family, of hope into the heart of the darkness that suffocated her. In that moment, the shadows shrieked, recoiling from her defiance. But as they pulled back, the ground shook once more, and in the chaos, she felt the pull of her children more intensely than ever. And then, just as clarity reigned, a chilling thought surfaced. What if the cost of bringing her children back was more than just her heart? What if she had to sacrifice something far greater, something unknown? The ground cracked further, and she was teetering at the brink of the shadowy precipice, faced with a choice that could alter everything. Would she be brave enough to pay that cost, or would fear swallow her whole? In the chaos, a new whisper of voice she recognized cut through the din, echoing eerily through the void. Mommy, please don't leave us. Sarah's heart plummeted. Was it truly them? Or another insidious trick of the shadows? As she grasped at the air, the darkness surged forward, pulling her down toward the depths. Don't let them take you, she screamed into the void, knowing that the next words, the next actions, were all that stood between her and the unknown. What would be claimed in this battle, and what hidden truths would be unveiled as the price of her love? The darkened space twisted around Sarah, wrapping her in an icy embrace. She clutched her head as the shadows slithered closer, glimmering with a dreadful anticipation. Her senses were assaulted by the echoes of mockery laughter that pinched and prodded at her sanity. Had she made a mistake in choosing to fight? Stay away from them! She shrieked, desperation fueling her voice as she pushed against the churning darkness. Her thoughts raced, grappling with fear. If she succumbed to despair, what would happen to Ella and Ben? But if she fought, what sacrifice would that demand? The ground beneath her quaked violently, forcing her to plant her hands on the barren soil. Each tremor sent shockwaves through her body, almost as if the earth itself was alive, pulsating with an evil hunger. A deep fissure opened nearby, revealing a deeper abyss swirling with shadows, and from it came the distorted faces of her children, trapped and pleading. "Mommy!" they called, their voices a blend of anguish and hope. Fire surged inside her as she resolved to seize the moment, but doubt gnawed at her strength. What if they were mere imitations, ghostly shades conjured by this cruel darkness? "No!" she shouted, pulling herself upright, shaking the fear off like a faint chill. "You are not illusions. You are my flesh and blood. You are real." As she shouted for them, the oppressive shadows began to writhe, retreating from the warmth of her words. Yet the scenario around her grew darker, the air thicker like a suffocating fog. The penetrating whispers turned into a low hum, rising and falling like heartbeats, quickening her panic. "Find your heart, Sarah. Let it guide you," a voice, soft yet stinging, broke through the chaos, but she could not place its origin. Was it a memory? An apparition? Then she remembered their stories' adventures full of bravery, laughter, joy. Each memory carved a path through the mist of despair. She focused on a moment when Ben had made her laugh until she cried, his innocent face aglow with mischief under the sun's rays. The shadows paused, flickering at her recollection, seemingly confused by the light. "Ella! Ben!" she cried again, pouring her conviction into the air like a bomb. "We've fought through worse. Together, remember? Remember the monsters we defeated at Grandma's house? We can fight this too. I love you, and love is our power." The ground shuddered more violently, lifting her off balance. The shadows screeched in fury, but she felt an ember burning fiercely in her heart. It flickered dangerously, threatening to extinguish under the weight of overwhelming fear. Yet, she leaned into it. As she struggled, she heard their voices clearer, stronger. "We're here, Mommy. Just reach for us." In that moment of clarity, the darkness lashed out one last time, with all its malice. Shapes lunged at her, elongated arms reaching like claws ready to drag her back into the depths, but she held her ground, squaring her shoulders. "I won't let you take them," she roared, grounding her feet and drawing from every ounce of love and determination she had. And then, a cracking sound broke through the cacophony of evil light flooded the tear in the shadows. She saw it, a shimmering portal opening just beyond the point of no return, where Ben and Ella stood with tears in their eyes, shimmering like memories. But as she rushed toward the glimmer, a shoe from the depths lashed out, snagging her ankle with a crippling force. The pull was relentless, dragging her towards the churning mass. She felt the heat of her children's presence slip away, threatening to disappear into the darkness once more. "Don't let them take you!" she screamed, every fiber of her being igniting with raw power. And just then, another whisper slithered through her consciousness, more chilling than the last. "Are you willing to pay the price?" Sarah froze, the desire to know the answer rooted deep in her gut. Did the promise of reunion come at a cost she wouldn't dare contemplate? The presence of something far more sinister loomed closer, its eyes glinting in the edges of the shadows, waiting for her answer. With her children's lives at stake, the darkness grinned, maddeningly confident. What price would she pay to save them? And in that moment, the real question uncoiled: could love truly conquer the shadows, or would her choice lead to their final demise? Darkness tightened around Sarah as she felt the weight of the entity creeping closer, its breath cold against her skin. The creeping shadows seemed alive, swirling in a choreographed menace that echoed the heartbeat of her own fear. The hair on her arms stood on end as she wrestled with the realization of her predicament. "Pay the price," the whisper taunted again, curling around her consciousness until it became an ear-splitting shriek. "What will you sacrifice for their salvation?" Sarah's breath quickened, each inhale feeling like shards of ice filling her lungs. She couldn't process it. Her children were right there, just beyond the veil of light, yet she was being dragged back into the grip of despair. What would she give up? A piece of her heart? Her sanity? In that moment of desperation, the ground beneath her plunged deeper, and the fissure gaped wider, revealing swirling tendrils of darkness that beckoned her. Her body pulled involuntarily, the shadows promising endless power if she only surrendered. "No!" she screamed. "I want tea." But the essence of fear tangled with her thoughts, suffocating her resolve. Ella and Ben were becoming mere silhouettes, fading against the brilliant glow of the portal. She could feel their warmth slipping away, and the frantic thumping in her chest echoed the beat of her life slipping through her fingers. Suddenly, the shadows lunged forward, twisting and bending into grotesque forms. The features of the darkness morphed into monstrous faces. They howled with laughter, a sound that slithered under her skin, racing along her spine. She winced, the sound leaching hope from her veins. Then, a flicker, a reminder of their laughter, of their fleeting moments together. She recalled Ella's bright smile, the day they picked flowers in the sun, and Ben's mischievous grin when he had tied her shoelaces together. Each memory was a bullet, piercing through the dark fog, igniting something deep within her. Strength brewed in love. "I will fight!" she cried, and surged against the pull of the abyss. The shadows recoiled like smoke, flickering around her. The more she summoned their memories, the more the darkness seemed to panic. Visibly shaken, it retreated, but not for long. "Who do you think you are?" a voice thundered from the depths of the churning black. It slithered against her skin, curling into her ears, making her stomach churn with dread. "You think love can save you? It can only weaken you. Not if I believe." Sarah shouted, her voice slicing through the claustrophobic air like a shard of glass. She closed her eyes, envisioning her children, their love amplifying within her like a siren. "I will not be afraid of you." The shadows writhed, a tempest swirling violently around her. Sarah's heart raced as blasts of energy crackled through the chasm, sending jolting shocks through her body. It felt like lightning striking her soul, fueling her determination. Yet even as she pushed the darkness back, she could sense the sinister eyes lurking just beyond the edge of her vision. They watched, hungry for her weakness, and the laughter returned, mocking her bravado. "What will happen when you tire? When despair finds you again?" the voice mocked, dripping with malice. Just before she could respond, the portal flickered, the image of her children wavering as if the connection was thinning. Panic surged through her chest, raw and wrenching. She realized, in her heart, that the battle had only just begun. They needed her. She could not falter, not now. Not ever. Determined, she locked her gaze on the portal, the glowing light brightening, calling her home. Yet the shadows surged one last time, clawing at her with a desperate rage, threatening to pull her down into the abyss of endless night. Would she be strong enough to hold on? Or would the shadows unleash their ultimate sacrifice? As they tugged at her with a fury she had never imagined, confusion washed over her mind, encasing her in fear. What if she was too late to save them all? And through it all, the whisper lingered, taunt-filled and chilling, "The price is only beginning." The shadows lunged at Sarah, their tendrils wrapping around her like a vice, dragging her toward the yawning abyss. Her heart raced as the light from the portal flickered, the image of her children morphing into worry-filled faces. They were her tether, her reason to fight, yet every grasp at hope felt like a lie whispered in the dark. "Let go!" the voice hissed, echoing ominously around her, a chorus of wicked laughter spiraling through the air. The shadows contorted, revealing glimpses of monstrous shapes. Reptilian eyes gleamed with malice, mouths twisted into grotesque snickers. Sarah could scarcely breathe, trembling at their forms, each disfigured face a promise of torment. They thrived on her fear. "No!" she shouted with all the defiance she could muster. "You can't have me." Pulling from that reservoir of love, she envisioned her children's laughter, the way Ella would twirl in her favorite dress and how Ben could always find a way to make her smile even on the hardest days. With each memory, she poured her essence into the light, feeling the warmth wrap around her like a protective cloak. But the shadows danced, sensing her resolve, and the laughter intensified, drowning her spirit in chaotic echoes. "You think you can defeat us with delusions of love?" they screeched in unison, a cacophony that rattled her bones. "You don't know the price of salvation." "But I do," she cried, forcing the words past the fear constricting her throat. "They are worth it. I will sacrifice everything for my children." The tendrils recoiled for a moment, and hesitation rippled through the thick, black air. Sarah seized the moment, pushing against the oppressive force with every ounce of energy she had, willing the shadows to retreat. The glow of the portal pulsed brighter, responding to her conviction, as if it recognized the fighting spirit within her. The furious howling of the shadows splintered the silence. "You think this is a game?" The voice grew more sinister, morphing into a chilling whisper. "You cannot win. You will break. It's only a matter of time before despair comes knocking." In that instant, doubt encroached. What if the shadows were right? She felt her energy wane, her body aching from the strain of the struggle. Sweat dripped down her face, and she could feel the cold seep into her bones. It was relentless, clawing at her spirit, trying to plant seeds of hopelessness in her mind. "Think, Sarah," she scolded herself. "What would they do? They would never give up on me." Imagining Ella's fierce spirit smiling back at her gave Sarah strength. Ben's unwavering belief that everything would turn out right propelled her forward. With newfound resolve, she shouted, "I will find you. Nothing will stop me." The shadows roared, their forms thrashing violently, the air crackling with rage. "Foolish woman! You cannot withstand our fury forever." In a final desperate attempt, Sarah fell to her knees, eyes poised on the portal. The glow was dimming, flickering like a dying flame. Tears streaming down her cheeks, she let every ounce of love, of hope, pour out like a beacon. "Please, just come back to me," she cried, choking on her emotions. A sudden shift occurred. The shadows hesitated. Their laughter faltered, replaced by a low, menacing grumble. The darkness curled back, as if it feared her vulnerability, but not for long. In an instant, the winds howled, and the shadows surged forward, crashing against her will with ferocity. Sarah's breath hitched, the darkness was too strong, swirling like a tempest. A sense of urgency slammed into her as she clenched her fists. Then, an icy grip seized her heart, the voice echoed, a final taunt slicing through her thoughts. "What will you sacrifice to keep your precious children safe?" Panic clawed at her gut. What was left to give? As a shimmering figure began to form at the edge of the portal, she felt a pull, one that threatened to tear her in two. "Everything," Sarah murmured, her breath hitching. To keep them safe, what awaited her in this darkness? Suddenly, ominous shadows twisted together, forming a single, massive entity that loomed just before her. It reached out, a hand clawed and grotesque, yet strangely inviting. As she felt herself drawn into the murky depths, she sensed a flicker of hope battling against despair. As she prepared to take one more leap into the unknown, a question echoed in the recesses of her mind: what was the true price she would have to pay? The shadows surged around Sarah, enveloping her in a cold embrace, even as she battled to keep her grip on the warmth of her children's love. Suddenly, she felt a rush of clarity amid the chaos. No matter the cost, she breathed out, determination hardening her resolve. "I will fight for them." The darkness seemed to falter, twisting and throbbing in response to her fierce love. Yet, an unsettling laughter filled the air, mocking the strength that swelled within her. "You think your love can conquer us? Your memories are weak," the voice hissed. "Just let me have my kids back." She pleaded desperately, fighting the encroaching despair intertwined in every shadow. If her love was a weapon, she would wield it like a sword, cutting through the torment threatening to devour her. But each word felt like a bead slipping through her fingers, a flicker of her children's laughter now twisting into cries of anguish. Sarah's heart felt like it was tearing in two, as the silhouettes of Ella and Ben danced just beyond reach, trapped in a taunting darkness. "Mommy! Help us!" The urgency in their sweet voices propelled her forward, fueling her fight. Every heartbeat pounded in her ears as she steeled herself against the dark tide. "You will not take them from me," she bellowed, shaking her fists toward the malevolent force. "Their love is stronger than your shadows." Then, a sudden flash of tenderness danced in the corner of her heart. Memories ignited summer days filled with watermelon slices, bedtime stories, and warm hugs that never seemed to end. Each was a flickering light that struggled against the cold. And amidst that warmth came a bitter clarity: to save them, she might have to accept the price of sacrifice. As the shadows twisted closer, their icy breaths numbed her spirit. "What would you be willing to surrender?" they cooed, caressing her thoughts like an intimate dread. "For her children?" "Everything. Take what you want, but let my children go," she screamed, her voice a terrified roar against the abyss. As she said those words, a weight lifted from her heart, and a strange calm washed over her. Could it be enough? The darkness pulsed, then lashed out violently, tendrils reaching for her throat like a vice. "You'd sacrifice everything for mere memories? You don't know the reality of this pact," the voice thundered, laughing cruelly. "But those memories are the essence of who I am," she retorted, her spirit burning brightly against the encroaching gloom. "They are my everything." In that moment, she understood. The true battle was not against the darkness outside, but against the shadows within. Could she truly embrace her deepest fears and confront what lay lurking there? With every ounce of courage, she lunged toward the portal, reaching for the fading glow of her children's images. Ella. Ben. The names Triss, echoing with love, shimmered through the cracked shadows. And as she grasped for the light, a response bloomed from the inside, an echo of their laughter, sweet and pure, blending with her own voice. The shadows recoiled, howling in fury. "You think your heart can withstand this torment? Feel the price of sacrifice," they screeched. In a heartbeat, the darkness swelled and spiraled, beckoning her with its terrifying allure. Could she hold on? But Sarah stood firm. "I will hold on no matter what it takes," she cried, hope paving the way through the night. And in that powerful vow, the shadows fell back, cracking like the shell of an egg, revealing light, brilliant, unstoppable light that pierced the darkness. As she felt the warm embrace of the sun-filled memories around her, the clarity crashed into her once more. "You are not just shadows. You are part of my heart." The walls of darkness clenched tighter, pain echoed within her, but Sarah felt no fear now. Only love. As the light shimmered like an endless horizon, the ground beneath her feet trembled violently, pulling her back towards the swirling shadows, but resolve flowed through her body like molten lava. Their voices surged stronger, anchoring her in reality. "You can do this. We're with you, Mommy." With every ounce of strength and certainty, Sarah pressed forward, reaching wholeheartedly for Ella and Ben. Just as she grasped their tiny hands warm and alive, she felt the darkness dissipate, dissolving into wisps of nothingness as if afraid of her fierce commitment. The shadows hissed, their forms folding and breaking apart, revealing a path back to her home. The darkness, the malevolence, faded into echoes of despair, and finally, she uncovered the secret: the power of true love was an unstoppable force. With one final surge, she pulled her children close, their laughter filling the void. "We are together now. Together, always," she declared, her heart swelling with joy. As she stepped into the blazing light, the shadows shrieked and faded, swallowed up by the very essence they once claimed. Together, they emerged hand in hand, stepping back into the embrace of the living, illuminating everything around them. And in that moment, pure, bright, and alive, the warmth of family surged through Sarah, illuminating the darkness that had once threatened to consume her whole. "I love you both always," she whispered, pressing her forehead on theirs in a tender embrace, knowing the real battle had ended with hope. As they stood together in their familiar surroundings, warmth filled the air, casting away the remnants of last night's horror. The light flooded around them, a sweet promise echoed in the breeze. They had faced darkness together, overcome the shadows. Now, their bond shone brighter than ever, a beacon for every lost soul. They would always be stronger together. But remember this: the price of love is often steep, and in every dark place, there's a light waiting to bloom if you're brave enough to reach for it. Now you've seen it all, don't forget to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how important your support is. Let us keep this journey alive together.